In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this stylish cowl neck dress with ruche at the waistline. So to start, here is my pattern and I've gone ahead to mark out the zipper because I'm starting from the back pattern. I marked out the zipper and I marked that to bust, under bust, waist and 7 inches to get my hip point. If you're a much taller person, please use 8 inches. And the lower part is the full length of this dress. So now I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and whatever I'm marking is starting after the zipper line, whatever measurement I'm taking. So I'll come down by 1 inch from that my shoulder measurement divided by 2. Here I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches, and after marking that, I'm going to go ahead to connect from that shoulder slant all the way to the neckline. Next, I'll find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll rule out a straight line at that point. Now, I'm going to place back my tape on that chest line, and I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. After marking that, I'm going to place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line connecting all the way up. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to place my tape, and I'll divide what I have here into 2, come out by a ½ inch. Now, going over to this point at the chest line, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. After that, I'm going to go ahead to connect all the way from the ½ inch at the armhole to the upper part of the shoulder, and from that ½ inch, I'll connect it all the way to the chest line. Now, the next step is to insert my measurement. There's no dart on this pattern. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. Here at the under bust, I'm going to mark the under bust circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. After I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. So for this pattern, you don't need much sewing allowance, 1 inch is enough. Now, I'm going to connect all the way from the bust, the under bust of this pattern, and after connecting that, I'll connect to the waistline and then to the hip point. So from the hip point, I'm going to go ahead to connect this down. And if you notice, the lower part of this dress is a bit free. It's not like it is fitted. So you can take what you have on the hip all the way down, or place your ruler a bit slanted and take it down. Like, it's not going to be pointed, but just go ahead to make it a bit free. So here, mark your neckline of 3 by 1 inch for the back. So we are going to make reference to this for the front pattern of your dress, right? Now, after I'm done marking this, you notice this zipper now is not included in the neckline of the back, and I will mark out the chest line because the back pattern is actually a backless pattern. I came down by ½ inch here, and I'm going to extend this all the way down to the hip and to the upper part of my pattern. This is to take out the zipper bulge on this dress at the back. So after marking that, I'll go ahead to cut out my back pattern. But before going ahead to cut this out, what I'll do is to go ahead to measure the neckline starting from where the zipper stopped to the upper part of the neckline. So I'll trace out this measurement, and after cutting out, this is what I have, right? Now, after I'm done cutting this, I'll also trace out the zipper bulge of this dress. Then we'll now go ahead draft out the front. So for the back pattern of this dress, you don't need the upper part, so we'll be folding it out this way. Now for the front, that is where all the work is. So I'll fold in my zipper and I'll place it on another pattern paper. I want to cut out the front and I don't want to go through the process of remarking all this measurement again. All I did was just to go ahead to place my back pattern, fold out the zipper, and I'm going to trace this all the way down. After tracing out, I will make marks at the waist line, at the under bust line, at the bust line, right? So we'll be making reference to that pattern. Now what I will now do is to go ahead to place my ruler and I'll connect all those lines. So to get your hip point also, go ahead to place your tape and mark 7 inches from your hip line, or you can just use your pattern paper to mark it. That is, place your back pattern at the front. For the neckline, I marked a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches. I might not be using this, but it will serve as a guide for my pattern. So this is a cow neck dress, and for a cow neck dress you need to open it up to have that dripping. So what I will now do is, the easiest way to cut this is to open up my pattern. Now if you look at the picture of this dress, you notice that the cow neck started like closely to the bust area of this dress. So I'm actually combining two styles, the cow neck and the backless cow neck, and the one that has dripping at the waistline. So now I'll cut this open this way and I'll open it up to get the cow neckline effect. So this is like the easiest way to cut this out without going ahead to like slash your pattern open differently and start placing it back. Cut out your pattern. And another thing you need to note is, depending on how open you cut it, like spread it open, that's the amount of draping on the cow neck you're going to have. Like if you want it very little, you just open it up very little. So for this particular dress, you can use a minimum of 6 inches, right? But whatever you're doing should not be so wide, because it's going to go ahead to make the bust area of your dress very revealing. Let's say you use like 8 inches, right? Or even if you want to use more, but it should not be too open that when you sew the dress, the cow neck is going to drape down and reveal your bust open. So what I'll do now is to go ahead to use sellotape to hold this down on my pattern paper. Now I'll place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line on this pattern. After I'm done drawing this out, I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way to the shoulder of my dress. And I'll go ahead to connect and outline the shoulder, then outline the armhole of the dress also. Go ahead to outline the side of the pattern. So this is what I have now, and I'll be opening this up later. Sorry, I'll be cutting that out. So we have a little alter neck. So what I'll do, I'll go in a little and reconnect it back so that it will give you that alter neck shape at the neckline of your dress. Now I'll now go ahead to trace out the other side of the pattern. After tracing this out, at the upper part of the shoulder, I'm going to cut out that part. Now you also want to take note of that part. Now going to the waistline, we are also going to create like a slash and spread effect for us to achieve that pleat. Now depending on where you want it to start, go ahead to place your tape and measure from your waistline up. So for me, I use 2 inches from my waistline, above my waistline, and I went up by ½ inch from my waist. Now this part, now you're going to cut it out. Now we are going to have that extension here. That means you need a slash and spread to achieve that. What I will now do is, from that part I cut out, I'll slash it into different sizes, label it, and I'll be spreading it out on another pattern paper, right? So after I'm done cutting this out now, I'm just going to cut this and place it directly on this pattern paper. Now for the distance you need to take, if you look at that dress, the pleating is not much. The pleating is not much. So when you're doing yours, please don't use too much opening. You can use between 1 inch to 2 inches spacing, just to get an extra fabric stretch of your fabric, and then you're going to pleat it back. So if I place, I'll measure about 2 inches and I'll mark, and then go ahead to place the next pattern. So if you feel this 2 inches is even much, you can use 1 inch, because what you're trying to achieve is just to get the excess fabric there that you pleat back and have a ruche at the upper part to the hip part of this dress. So I'll just go ahead to place the last pattern and I'll pin it down. Then I will now go ahead to trace out the sides of this pattern following the initial first pattern I placed on it, so that it will match what we have on the back pattern of the dress. So after I'm done doing this, I'll now be taping it back to the lower part. That is, take this down, tape it back to the lower part where you cut it out from. After taping this, tape the upper part back this way and join it as one piece. Now, when you're joining your dress, you're going to use the back pattern to serve as a guide to join back your dress. So let me bring the back pattern. Remember, like I said, the back pattern is a backless pattern. Go ahead to cut it out, right? Now, after cutting it out, you're going to place it before going ahead to sew. This, let's say this is the wrong side of the fabric. Then from the waistline of the back, mark that same 2 inches you came up, or any measurement you used from the waist upwards, and where you started the pleat from your hip point. Now what you now do is to go ahead to start creating small pleats on the front pattern so that it will match up with what we have at the back. So this is why I said you don't need much spacing, because if you use too much spacing on it, instead of forming little pleats, it will now be too much on the waistline. It will now be as if you're carrying something on the waistline instead of creating that little pleat. So now you now go ahead to like pleat it and make sure that whatever you're pleating matches the side of your pattern from the waist to the hip point, towards the hip point. That is exactly what you have at the back. The back will now be serving as a guide to where you're pleating it. And when you're doing this, you're going to need your pin. Anyone you pleat, go ahead to pleat. Another way is to go ahead to use your needle and thread and sew a gather stitch by the side and drag it. So that might not really give you the effect you want, so you can carefully like pleat it the way you want it to be, and then you attach the front to that of the back this way. So your pleat is not meant to be too deep. If not, it will be looking as if you're carrying something on the waistline. Like, this is a pattern paper, so that is why it's looking like this. So now what you now do is you need to add an extension at the neckline of this back to get to the back of this pattern. So I'm just going to make use of what I have at the back pattern here. I'll pick the back pattern and I'll place it, then trace it and connect it. I'll now go ahead to cut it out. So after cutting it out, that will be the extension to join the back neckline, because the neckline of this dress is back, and you'll be cutting your pattern on fold.